It's a pleasure to be a participant in this Congress. My name is Eglantina PAZAJ. I am a lecturer at the Agriculture University of Tirana, Faculty of Economics and Agribusiness, Department of Economics and Rural Development Policies. I will present today establishing the problems of olive processors in Albania regarding other actors in the system and the possibility of solving them. Which is the background of this study? The olive production sector in Albania is a very important sector. Production and investments in this sector have fluctuated continuously, but the last few years reflect an increase in investment by farmers in this sector, as well as an increase in subsidies from the government. The direct survey conducting on farmers and processors will reflect some of the problems that exist between the actors in the system, where the greatest attention will be paid to the olive oil processing sector. This study refers to information gathered from 100 agro-processing enterprises and about 136 olive cultivation farmers. The information was collected through a questionnaire that was tested directly on olive growers and farmers in some areas of our country. Through the information gathered from the direct survey, some of the problems between the actors in the system will be identified. Mainly, we will focus on some of the challenges or problems faced by the olive agro-processing sector in our country. Which are the objectives? The first, to evaluate the contribution of domestic production in the development of agro-industry for the field taken in the analysis. Assess the possibilities and problems related to the use of the production processing contracting system. Assess the levels of production capacity utilization in all three links on the system. Analyze and evaluate the problems and causes of opportunistic behaviors among actors in the chain. Analyze and evaluate the value chain for the threat under study and provide proposals to increase the role of the raw material producers in the chain. The methodology and data that is used in this study is focused in bibliographic review, office work, field survey, implementation of multifactorial linear econometric model for the assessment of factors affecting the possibility of concluding agricultural contracts. Is use the analysis of variance to discuss differences between genders, professions, and levels of education in terms of assessing the importance and role of contracts. Which are the hypotheses? In this study, we have two hypotheses. The first, the problem of contracts is determined by the real possibilities for concluding contracts, by the experience of contract implementation, the presence of limited offers, the reliability of the partners, and the risk that accompanies the problem of contracts. And the second, acceptation of the possibility and role of contracts do not depend on the gender, level of education, and profession of the person involved, which are farmer and agro-processors. In this slide, you can see three figures. In the first, in figure 1, we have presented the average production capacity, which is estimated in the year of creation by districts, capital, and individual ownership form. In figure 2 is presented average production capacity is estimated in the year of creation, capital, and the form. the first and second form. And in the figure 3, we have presented the average production capacity estimated in the year of creation, capital, and form General Limited Company. Olive oil production sector from 2019-2023. Which is the situation? Our country generally has small agro-processing enterprises which the owners themselves manage. They employ a small number of workers who in most cases are not declared in the state, which is a big problem for our country. In general, there is a lack of specialists in the field where a worker deals with some technological processes, and this is another problem because they can reduce the output and can reduce the export of the product. These, but also the influence of other factors, affect a low degree of competitiveness. As a result, exports will be small and producers' income will be low. The markets are dominated by imported products as local production does not cover the local demand for the year. Olive oil production during 2019 experienced an increase of 2% compared to a year ago. Production reached up to 20,000 tons of olive oil. Among the cities with high olive production, we can mention Berat, Fier, and Vlora or Valona, while the other districts had a lower production level. A part of the olives is sold directly for consumption at the table, and the rest is processed into oil. In recent years, investments in the olive sector have increased in our country, being seen as a very profitable sector for producers. Also, the government has increased subsidies for this sector. Olive production has fluctuated in reference to the years 2019, 2020, 2021 and 2022. Even in 2022 and 2023, the price of olive oil decreased so much that it had the same price of sunflower oil. While the market reflected on increases in prices for all the basic products of the basket, the price of olive oil for these years until now is low because in these years we have a big production of olive oil. The market meets the demands of local consumers, but the producers, even though they have a super production, most of them cannot export olive oil because they do not have a certified product. It's a big problem, this, for us and for this sector. Most of the producers are small and cannot be integrated into the international markets even though they produce very high quality oil. During 2020, there was a production boom, and at that time, humanity was facing the COVID-19 pandemic, which influenced a large increase in demand for olive oil seen by consumers as a product with high health values. Quarantine during the pandemic had the effect of restricting the movements of individuals. It also damaged the individual supply of olive oil from neighboring countries due to pandemic restrictions. Thus, the demand for domestic olive oil increased. The closing of restaurants and the restriction of movement during this period affected the decrease in consumption. This increase in demand for olive oil during the pandemic affected the increase in price, affecting the increase in producer income. While for the years 2022 and 2023 as above, the price of olive oil has fallen due to the high production it has had in these years, even though the country is facing high levels of inflation due to the Russia-Ukraine war. So the problem for processing factors remains the product logo and certification. The fact that the processors are small does not have a destination for the international market. Only a few large producers in the country have been able to certify the product and export it to international markets represented and with a product logo. The sale of oil in the local market is informal since the producers, being small, are not declared. Olive oil is sold in the market informally. Informal farmers cover 90% of market demand, while the rest is covered by 5% from local processors and 5% from imports. The high degree of informality affects the reduction of the profits of the actors in the system, but not only, but it also affects the unfair competition between the actors in the system. Also, the raw material that they sell to the producers without VAT. On the other hand, the processors must do the analysis of the quality of the production, which has high cost. These factors have influenced an upward trend in the price of olive oil and at the same time have oriented processors to import the raw material as it gives them a lower cost in production. So, which is the concrete situation of olive processing factors in Albania? The processing factors are built mainly near the areas with olives. In most cases, they are factories built to serve farmers to purchase olive trees. So, being small factories, they do not have a market destination. On the other hand, there are few olive processing factories, 5 or 6 perhaps, agro-processings, out of 100 that have been interviewed, which invest in contemporary technology, aim at growth and the market to maximize their profits. Of these processed packages that have a destination and the international market are often impossible to access as the olive oil often has high acidity, not meeting European standards. Of course, we cannot say that it is the manufacturer's fault for the quality of the oil. There are many factors that affect the relationship from the farm until the product reached the processors. We can say that there are problems with all the links in the chain. First, we can say that in order for the olive oil not to have acidity, it must be processed within 2 or 3 hours of the whole of the olive harvest, but it is impossible for the farmer to process his production within 2 or 3 hours. Farmers do not have the opportunity in most cases to transport the product to the process. In some areas there are problems with the infrastructure, and sometimes the way the product is transported in unsuitable condition damages it, affecting the quality of the olive oil. On the other hand, the processor has not created a collaboration with the farmers to conclude contracts between them in such a way that the processor himself takes over the production of the farm, or other collaboration such as the processor cooperating with the farmer by contributing to all the services he needs. Which is the impact of agriculture contracts in the agribusiness system? So, at the first are elements of problem solving in the system. affect the maximization of integrated profits. Anyone can become better than the profit realized. Signing contracts affects the reduction of operating costs, guarantees the required quantities of products, guarantee product quality, guarantees supply deadlines, etc. And the problem faced by olive processors in a contractual relationship are: in addition to the advantages of the contractual relationship, problems arise, some of which are presented below. First, farmers who have entered into contracts may face land restrictions due to a lack of secure ownership, thus endangering long-term operational viability. Social and cultural constraints can affect farmers' ability to produce, manage, and specialize. Poor management and lack of consultation with farmers can lead to farmers' dissatisfaction. Farmers can sell without a contract, thus reducing turnover for processing plants. Farmers sell their products. On the street, they sell only 16.8% of their production. They sell only 43% of their production directly to processors. At the collection points, they sell 26.7% of their production. So farmers may divert the supply of credit inputs for other purposes, thus reducing yields. And which are the advantages of olive processors in a contractual relationship? Some of the advantages that processors may have involved in a contractual relationship with other actors in the agribusiness system are as follows. The first, agriculture contracts with small farmers are more politically acceptable than with other farmers. Working with small farmers also overcomes land constraints. Production is more reliable than purchases in open markets, so sponsoring companies face less risk by not being responsible for production. Good quality products can also be purchased in open market. The signing of agricultural contracts, concrete situation in Albania. During the field interviews, it was found that the relations between farmers and agro-processors are built based on oral agreements. No contract was signed between farmers and agro-processors. The biggest obstacle to signing agricultural contracts was on the part of farmers. The interviewed farmers in most cases did not have information on how signing a contract worked, while in some other cases they were not interested in signing a contract. It was enough for them to agree verbally with the processors where they would sell their products, as the processing factories were set up mainly near the olive production areas. Another reason that there are no signed contracts between farmers and agro-processors is the fact that some farmers are not able to provide agro-processors with the quantity and quality of products they want. Another reason for avoiding contracts is that signing a contract by the rules will increase the total cost, the transaction cost, thus increasing the notary cost. Here we can see the first model that it is used for two hypotheses that we have seen above. In this model, we have dependent variable, the possibility of concluding contracts, and independent variable is the risk. So we can see the results above. A indicates the possibility of concluding contracts when the risk is zero and when the effect of other factors does not change. And this value indicates that when the risk increases by 1 unit, then the possibility of concluding contracts will increase by 0.37. And another model that is used is this, when dividend variable is the possibility of concluding contracts, and independent variable is implementation of contracts regarding supply quantity implementation. So we can see the results about the model that is used, and data analysis with SPS. And another model you can see in this slide, analysis of variance for contract. This is used ANOVA analysis of variance to evaluate the indicators obtained in the analysis, which explains the source of variation. And we have the results here. We have education, gender, profession, residual. So for the three models that are used in this study, the conclusion that we have seen confirm the verification of the hypothesis raised in this study. So the hypotheses we have raised for this study are confirmed through analysis of variance, where all interviewed farmers generally give the same opinion about contracts, so they are not differentiated by gender, education, or profession. So for all three of these indicators, the differences do not turn out to be significant. And now we can conclude with conclusions of the study. There are many conclusions. I can read some of them. So during the study, it was found that in our country there are fragmented farms, which in most cases produce for self-subsistence and very little for the market. Very few processors produce and have a logo for their products. Infrastructure and transport continue to remain a concern for all actors included in the system. The informality of sales constitutes another problem. The processors are dependent on the farmers for the provision of raw materials and their quality. Non-declaration of the workforce, especially in processing factories, continues to remain a problem in our country. As a result of the existence of a series of problems in all links of the agribusiness system and the actors who participate in it, and all the problems raised for the possibility of concluding contracts are present and critical between farmers and agro-processors. And the recommendation then we can give in this study are based on the problems concluded during this work. You offer the following recommendation. It is recommended to increase cooperation between farmers by organizing agriculture cooperatives as an opportunity to increase their benefits, reduce fragmentation, reduce production costs, increase profits, etc. In order to solve some of the problems that exist between farmers and processors, the sign of agriculture contracts must definitely work in order to have first the farmer security in the sale of the product, but on the other hand security for the processors in securing the raw material both in terms of quantity and the quality. Increasing cooperation between all of the actors in the system for solving the problems that exist in the agribusiness chain, increasing competitiveness in international markets, and increasing the benefits between them. Even more special attention is required from the government in the adoption of specific policies, the increase of subsidies or the support that these production sector requires. For the processors, it is recommended to expand their activity, improve technology, but put a logo on their product so that it is not sold informally, and very important, product certification to affect the increase in exports and competitiveness in international markets. The reference from the study, and thank you for your attention.